Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah ma ba'd. The questioner is asking, are we allowed to use microwaves or ovens or something similar to warm up food that non-Muslims have, used to warm up their food in? Can you do that with your food as a Muslim? Now, in order to answer this question and understand the mas'ala, the ulama have talked about the vessels of the kuffar being of two types, Ahlul Kitab and other than Ahlul Kitab. Now, as for those from Ahlul Kitab, the ulama have mentioned, this is the opinion of the majority, that these vessels do not need to be washed because their meat is halal. Hence, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ used to have meat presented to him from the Yahud that were living there in Medina, and he used to accept invitations and he used to eat from their meat. Therefore, if the meat comes from a kitabi and it has been slaughtered from somebody who is a Jew or Christian and the name of Allah has been mentioned over it, then there is no harm in eating that meat. And if you're eating the meat, then the vessel and microwaves and any kind of contact with that meat, all of it is permissible. However, the scenario that we live in here now, most of the meat has not been slaughtered in this country. Most of the meat has not been slaughtered with those conditions, meaning they are not from the people of the book and the name of Allah has not been pronounced over them. Therefore now, the Muslim must be careful. Hence the ulama have said there is one section and one category of meat from non-Muslims that you are certain that it is halal, and as for the second category, you are not certain. In that scenario there, the majority of the ulama have mentioned that the vessels of the kuffar must be washed before you use them. This is because of the fact that if their meat or even a haram ingredient such as alcohol or something like that has touched something, then that whole thing becomes contaminated and it's not permissible for a Muslim to use it until it's been washed. Now the issue with ovens and microwaves and things like that is that the food doesn't actually touch the tray. So they go in there, they put their food in, they take it out, and then you put your food in, and there's been no actual contamination because their food is within a container or some kind of wrapping or packaging or something like that. Therefore, there is no spread of najasa, there is no contamination. I will still say, now obviously this is the issue of ijtihad because microwaves didn't exist at the time of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, but I will still say that the person should abstain. Reason why? That in the madhab of the Hanabila and the Shafi'iyya, they have said anything that comes from najasa is also najis. Anything that comes from something which is najis is also najis. Meaning, if you've got something which is najis, and the steam that comes out of that thing which is najis is the steam, najis or not najis? Ahmad and Shafi'i said najis. Malik and Abu Hanifa said not najis because it is just smoke. It's just steam. It could be anything. And this is the view of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. He said that the gas that comes off something which is najis is not najis. But the Hanabila, and you will find this in the explanations in the books of the Hanabila, and I think this is something that even Ibn Uthaymeen has leaned towards. Don't quote me on this, but this is what I can remember from Sharh al-Mumti' rahimahullah. He says that the bukhar, the smoke that comes out of something which is najis is also najis. So now if you've put something najis inside of an oven, inside of a microwave, inside of a toaster or something like that, and the steam that comes out of it, the food is gone, but the steam and the particles and things like that are still in there. It's not permissible for a Muslim to use until it has been washed because of what we said about vessels. And this for me seems to be the safer opinion, although there is obviously a valid ijtihad that can be looked in both ways. But for me, I would say that the Muslim should refrain from using microwaves and ovens and things like that. And this is, and before a person looks at this and says, look, you're being intolerant towards non-Muslims, we're not even being intolerant towards Muslims, we are even including this with Muslims. So now if you are not certain that meat is halal and that meat there is questionable, then anything which touches that meat is also contaminated. Because if it is not halal, then it's not permissible for a person to eat it from it or anything that has anything to do with that meat. But at the same time, the Muslim must be concerned and vigilant about wasawis and taking things above and beyond the limits. And this now, inshallah, hopefully we can understand what the Muslim should do in that scenario. Best thing is to refrain and to eat your food cold at lunchtime. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the best understanding of this religion. Wallahu a'lam. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad.